Okay, welcome to the Eastleigh Town Council Asset Management and Open Spaces Committee meeting on the 21st of January. My name is Councillor Gaz Richardson and I'm the chair of this meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded in accordance with the Council's recording of meetings policy. A recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the Council's website in due course. If any member of the public does not wish to be filmed, please let us know and we will direct you to an area not covered by the camera. Presenters and public speakers will be recorded, but those preferring not to be recorded can submit written representations to the clerk. We allocate 20 minutes at the start for public participation with up to 5 minutes per speaker. Items not on the agenda cannot be debated today, but the chair or clerk may provide a brief response, follow up in writing or discuss at a later date. Respectful conduct is expected at all times. Disruptive behaviour will not be tolerated and the chair may intervene or ask individuals to leave the meeting to maintain order. Councillors, by attending this meeting tonight, you have decided that you abide by Section 25 of the Localism Act 2011 and are attending this meeting with open minds to hear and participate in debate for motions brought. You agree to cast your votes in a reasoned and considered manner. Should any councillor therefore believe they are unable to do so or would wish to ensure transparency of commitments to other bodies, I would recommend that they declare them when invited to do so. Okay, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda. Alright. Item number 1 is apologies for absence. To receive and approve apologies for absence. So, sorry, I think there's... Is it a member of the public trying to come in? Sorry, just bear with us a second.
Yes, it is.
They've gone to the wrong door. It's fine. We'll let them come through. We'll just pause for a minute while everyone settles down. We've only just started, you haven't missed anything. Just one more. Okay. Item number 1 then is apologies for absence. To receive and approve apologies for absence.
We have apologies from Councillor Marks, Councillor Campbell and Councillor Shepherd, all due to illness.
Thank you. I would propose that we approve those. Is there a seconder for those? Councillor Constable, all those in favour of approving? That's everybody, thank you. Next item is register of interests and dispensations. To receive any declarations of interest or dispensations regarding any items on the agenda. Does anyone have any to raise? Councillor Bignell?
Tony Chair, just the usual, being an Eastleigh Borough Councillor, the standard.
Thank you. Any others? Councillor Spencer, the same reason? Thank you. Any others to declare? No? Okay, we'll move on. The next item is minutes of the last meeting. To approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of December 2025. Those were circulated in advance. Any questions or comments on any of those? Councillor Bignell?
Chair, I'm just trying to let me find it for a minute. There's a couple of references. Hang on, no. That's just the wrong minutes. There's a couple of references to land registry titles, but they were just numbers.
Councillor Bicknell did actually ask for clarification prior to on receipt of the papers. I believe they were amended. That's been amended before they actually have been issued, as it's just for clarity. I believe they're amended. They're HP.
Yeah.
They have been.
You just flicked past it.
But that's not on it. It's not showing the amendment. Where's it gone?
There, look. Sorry.
Okay. That's noted. I think that one's been sorted. Any other issues? Is there a proposer? Sorry, a proposer for those minutes? Councillor Clifton, seconder. Councillor Bicknell, all those in favour of approving? Thank you.
5725 has been
Right on
amended.
there, I think.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's on this one anyway. That's fine. Thank you.
Before we move on to the next item, I'm just going to make a quick statement that I will read out to everybody now. When I get it up. Okay, so an internal investigation has been carried out following a report from a member of the public that the required notice of a rent increase was not provided to allotment holders at the Monks Way allotment site. The investigation has now concluded, and I can confirm that 5 of the 6 Eastleigh Town Council managed allotment sites were correctly notified of the price increase. However, allotment holders at Monks Way were not notified. The Council's allotment policy is clear in that it requires tenants to be given a minimum of 6 months' notice of any changes to allotment charges. As tenants at Monks Way did not receive this notice, the Council is unable to proceed with the proposed rent increase for the Monks Way allotment site from the 1st of April as things currently stand. The committee is therefore being asked this evening to consider how to proceed. There are a number of potential options available which will be discussed by councillors during this meeting. Representations may be made this evening by members of the public, and councillors may wish to take that feedback into account when reaching their decision should they so wish. As the error relates to an internal personnel process, there will be no discussion at this meeting about the causes of the error, and the council is not in a position to respond to questions from members of the public or councillors on that point. Employment matters are confidential, and it is essential that the rights and privacy of staff are respected. So that's the statement that I'm going to make on that to start with. The next item on the agenda is public participation. The meeting will be adjourned for a maximum of 20 minutes, 5 minutes per speaker, to allow members of the public to make representations on any matter, answer questions and give evidence in respect of the business on the agenda. The next item is the allotments. Is there anyone from the public who does not want to speak about anything or wants to speak about something that isn't allotment related? If not, I'm going to move to the allotment section and we'll start it off with the public participation. So are there any councillor questions or comments in the public participation bit before we move on? Okay, the next item then is Eastleigh allotments, to review the report provided by the Deputy Clerk and resolve the actions to be taken. So we will move on to the public participation first. I think I have a list here of the people that would like to speak. You can come up to the table to speak. You do have up to 5 minutes. I'll call you up one at a time. Jenny first, I think I've got here. Councillors may wish to ask you questions on what you've said, which is fine. Once the public participation section has ended, though, councillors will then make the decision and there can be no more interjections from the public. That's how it works. Okay, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Jenny, and I'm the manager at the Monks Way site. Just wanted to start by saying thank you for the time to speak today, and also for scheduling the allotment item next. To appreciate it, so we can all disappear off for the rest of the evening. However, given the limited time, I'm afraid I and the other speakers today will need to be very direct and blunt. So
that's fine.
Forgive us for what we
we appreciate that.
So, starting straight away, we were extremely disappointed to discover the scale of the proposed price increase and set out in the letter that you've all seen as part of the agenda a number of our concerns. Whilst we're grateful that the decision is being given further consideration, we are disappointed with the responses to our letter that is set out in the agenda item. I also wanted to start by saying we were promised a full written response to our letter, so we had the information in plenty of time and could consider it properly before the meeting. Unfortunately, we've only had an email last Friday, so the 16th of January, sharing a link to this agenda, with some of us unable to access the papers until Monday. So we've actually had very little time to consider our responses, so do bear with us. It appears due to an administrative error that Monks Way plot holders were not given the required written notice for the price increase in April, and I noticed that we've acknowledged that at the start of the meeting, so thank you very much for that. So it's our belief that because we haven't had the 6 months notice, that it would then be the next annual rental period, so from 2027, that the price increase would be implemented. We believe this actually gives councillors the opportunity to properly review the allotment charges for, and I would suggest for all sites, and fully consider the points raised in our letter, to set out an appropriate and reasonable increase in charges with a sound and robust basis, rather than making a rushed decision. I note that that is one of the options presented in the paper, and I do hope that you will favour that option. However, I also note that one of the options under consideration in the agenda includes changing the rental period from April to March to October to September, and therefore giving 6 months notice for this revised period. I I'm unconvinced that a move to circumvent the legal notice requirements by amending the annual rental period would be legal. And certainly I don't think it's within the spirit of the law and would be unbefitting of a public sector organisation which is quite rightly held to much higher standards of behaviour. I'd also like to contest the assertion of the agenda that the increase is only 20% rather than 52% we quoted. The provision of water is not a new service. It was included in the £12.50 price per rod for 25-26, and page 1 of the agenda item in your pack states it was a result of a price for 26-27 should be £19 per rod for months away. It does say in brackets that it was £15 plus £4 for water, but £19 per rod is the total charge. £12.50 to £19 per rod is a 52% increase, and I would say to argue otherwise is rather disingenuous. I would reiterate that 52% is a huge increase that should at the very least be supported by robust financial data and full reasoning, which unfortunately in my view is not there within the papers that we've received. That concludes my bit, so I'd like to say thank you for listening.
Thank you. Do councillors have any questions before we move on to the next speaker? No? Okay, thank you. The next name on the list I have is Yvonne, please.
Oh, Gillian.
Sorry?
Gillian.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Gillian, and I'm an allotment coder at Motorway site as well, and I've been there for 5 years now. I'd just like to pick up on the agenda pack points relating to the comparison of charges to the other parishes. It's that bit that's in the agenda. First, the agenda pack response focuses on the 2026-27 rates for the next highest parish of Boywood at £80 for a 5-wood plot, a charge which has apparently recently been confirmed. I think on this list it says 70, but I think it was recently gone up to, they've changed it to 80 since that was written. Although this is still £15 less than the proposed rate for our side. The other much lower prices for parishes quoted in our table have been dismissed as 2025-2026 rates. That is simply not correct. The figures of the latest published rates at the time of writing our letter in early December with the dates the charges apply from clearly stated in the table. 7 of the rates cover the year to September 26, and in the case of Southampton, we have included the increased price from the 1st of November 2026, even though this was a significant increase on the previous rate, which had not changed for many years. For other parishes, the prices do not appear to have varied for several years. Even allowing for the increased price at Boywood, the average only amounts to £59.93 for a 5-rod plot. The proposed £95 for a 5-rod plot at Montway therefore remains significantly above the average for the area, and I maintain that there should be a clear rationale for why councillors believe that to be reasonable and justifiable. I think that really needs to be looked at. On the robustness of the financial data, if trend data is not available before 2024, arguably a request could have been made to Eastleigh Council for this information, because that's who's been looking after it before, meaning that there is only one complete financial year of data, which in my view would support our case that it's completely inappropriate to impose such a substantial increase in fees on the basis of such little data. The comments on ground maintenance are not reassuring and are actually quite alarming. The hedges, which we maintain should be the council's responsibility, not the responsibility of the allotment holders, had not been cut at all in the previous year. So actually the hedge cutting cost was £600 over 2 years. The contingency provided for in the £1,000 projected figure would seem extraordinarily excessive. £78 across to date, plus a generous allowance of £600 for hedge cutting, plus a further 322, or nearly 50% contingency. The reference to weed spraying is deeply concerning. We are growing food with the point of you know what's been put into growing it, we can avoid chemicals. We don't want weed spray on our site. And with the allotment officer costs, there are certainly far more than 2 possible options listed in the agenda activity. You know, I think it would be worth considering looking at rather than looking at cost per rod or cost per plot. Therefore, if the allotment officer hours are reducing in 2026-27, surely this should be adjusted for in 2026-27, not in 2027-28, because you're going to reduce them. I say again, the forecast provided by do not, in my view, stand up to scrutiny as an appropriate basis for supporting such a significant increase in the fee. Thank you.
Thank you. Any councillors have questions on that one? No? Okay, thank you. Was there anybody else? I haven't got anyone else on my list here. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
I am, but
Yeah.
you know about me, so no. My turn then?
Yeah, come forward.
I can get through that one slide.
Is this the last speaker or is anyone else wishing to speak?
No, I'm the last.
Okay, thank you.
Right, good evening, I'm Yvonne, some of you know me. I'm also an allotment holder at the Monksway site. I'd like to pick up on some of the points regarding electricity and water charges. I welcome response that electricity will remain in place until mitigation are implemented and that councillors have reversed their initial decision to cut off the electricity supply immediately. I look forward to hearing what these mitigations will be. I accept that there is no obligation to provide a communal shed and or a toilet. However, I would stress how useful those facilities are to both to those of us who do not have access to a car and cannot carry tools, etc. to the site every time, and for those of us who like to spend several hours or more on our plot, which I can assume councillors would like to encourage. Furthermore, to impose a 50% increase in fees whilst reducing the services provided seems rather unreasonable. With regards to the water charges, as we said in our letter, we welcome rain harvesting measures and see this as a positive step. It would be useful to hear the clear plans for this, including details on what those rainwater harvesting mitigations will be and when they will be put in place. However, the provision of mains water remains essential and there's a definite element of unfairness in basing the water charges on uses in the previous year. Plot holders are not able to control how much water other plot holders are using, and it would mean new plot holders paying for a cost incurred before they were even on site. It is the element of uncertainty over fees and future price increases that causes worry and consternation for plot holders, and I do not wish to see plot holders surrendering their plots and potentially leaving plots unoccupied because of concerns over high fees. Finally, I should like to address the points regarding the lack of transparency in the minutes. Given the significant increase proposed in the fees and the responsibilities of the council in having due regard to the fairness and reasonableness of any increase in charges, it must surely be appropriate in this particular instance to provide plot holders with sufficient information to demonstrate a sound basis for decision making, which equally would serve as evidence should the decision be challenged. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your discussion on this matter.
Thank you. Any council questions on that response, or to respond to that now? Okay, thank you. And that is everybody that wishes to speak. Excellent. Okay, we'll move on to our considerations now. Do officers want to respond to any of the comments made? No? Okay. Okay, over to the committee then. We've got a number of decisions to make. So at the moment, we cannot increase the price of Monksway because we haven't given the 6 months notice. So we have some decisions to make regarding that and all of the sites. At the moment, we can only increase 5 sites. Do we want to do that? I'll leave the floor. I'll open the floor to councillors to make any comments that they would like to make. Who would like to start us off? Councillor Clifton.
So, firstly, I'd just like to thank the members of the plot holders, the public who came in to speak. I really appreciate you sharing your views. And also for the letter, which I found very helpful. I think the first point that I think is worth discussing is, as you just raised, around the increase that's scheduled for 5 and 6 sites from April. I think it would be fundamentally unfair to go ahead with that increase when it wouldn't apply to all plot holders at all sites. I think we need to maintain an equity in the way that we're charging those rates across the town. So at the very least, I think that we need to defer that charge. I think one of the things that we have discussed previously, even before this issue was raised, was that we do have an issue with, at the moment, doing the billing from April causes some frustrations for our accounting processes, because we end up with rents being paid across the change in the financial year, which is why we were discussing the idea previously of moving to an October start for the year. So that is a decision that is independent of this issue, however could potentially give us an additional time on this occasion to consider those rents, and I think that is worth doing. And I think it's probably worth taking the time that gives us, which probably isn't a huge amount of time, we think we seriously get 6 months notice, to take a slightly more considered approach to how we're going to increase the rents. And in particular, I would like to see a more forthcoming and proactive consultation with the plot holders than I think that we've demonstrated to date, so that we can hear concerns around what we're proposing, and also put to the plot holders, because I don't think that the plot holders necessarily seen this, but to present the figures to you in full around how much it costs to look after those sites, and the significant subsidy that the council is effectively having to make for the cost of the sites from the council tax that we levy across the town, which did inform part of our decision making to try to curtail that subsidy to an extent. But I think it's probably fair to say that none of us expected that change to result in as significant an increase as it has, as it's been received as. So I guess in summary, I think the key decision that we ought to make tonight is around postponing the implementation of the increase so that we can do further consultation, consideration of what that increase ought to be, with a target of introducing the new charges from October, so that we can also realign the year that we're charging so that it better fits with our financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Clifton. Any other councillors like to add anything? Councillor Bignell?
Just finish with the scribbling. Thank you, Chair. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming along and actually for raising this, because actually sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And if notification had been received earlier, then this would have come to light earlier and we could have had discussions earlier. Just got a quick question of you all. Is everybody here from Monksway allotments, or is there anybody from elsewhere? Everyone's from Monksway?
No.
No. So, okay. I thought so. I recognised some faces. As Councillor Clifton has said, it does put us in an interesting position in the fact that there's something that we have to sort out with reference to Monksway, but it then comes to fairness on the other sites, because it would be grossly unfair if other sites, well, in my view, grossly unfair if other sites were paying more than a particular site. On the base rates, I mean, depending on other criteria and what have you, then there may be more, but actually when it comes to the very basics of price provided, you know, et cetera, then everyone should be paying the same, in my view. This makes things rather difficult now. And so I would be supporting the view that actually we do postpone price rises so that we can have fairness across all sides. As Councillor Clifton said, gives us the opportunity to work this through and consult, because at the end of the day, we need to bring everybody on board with us. And if we explain the rationales and the reasoning and what have you, as to things that we would like to do and want to do, then that'll be far better than potentially where we are at the moment through the things that have happened. So that would be my view as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bicknell. Any other Councillor Constable?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to start by addressing some of the questions and comments raised earlier on, chiefly among the financial decision making and the information that we used to come to the decision that we did. As Councillor Clifton alluded to, the council currently provides allotments at a loss to the council, which we all agree is a right and good thing for us to be doing. It's a great service to provide. We are not anywhere close to a position where the running of the allotments is revenue neutral, i.e. your rents cover all the costs associated with the allotments. The decision making, and I'm a bit surprised by the comments from other councillors, because the decision making that we came to arrive at this position was that there is a significant financial pressure on the council budget already, and the reason that the allotment prices need to be changed was because Eastleigh Borough Council's management of the allotments, due to their, I believe, 10-year, 15-year deal with allotment holders, meant that the allotment prices haven't been changed. I apologise, I have scribbled down here that somebody raised a question about getting prior financial year data from EBC. That was requested years prior to this decision being made. EBC had no data to provide us. I cannot tell you why that is, but we requested it. We do not have any information other than the council tax levy that EBC put in their mainline budget. I think that the members of the public here today have raised a significant problem that I know previously other councillors have raised with the chair, that the way minutes are recorded does not provide context to the debate that's taken place. It does not provide context to the reasoning for it. And the reason that we instituted in our first year of being a council recording of meetings policy is so that if there was confusion and members of the public couldn't attend these meetings, they could view the recordings. And I think that's something we need to urgently look at, not only complying with, but going out of our way to make it more accessible so that we can see the debate, see why these decisions were taken. I appreciate that on the face of it, this is a large increase. Nobody wants to see a large percentage increase on any bill. I completely understand where members of the public are coming from, but all of us as councillors have a responsibility to every taxpayer in our council authority. We cannot afford to continue to run the allotments at the loss we currently are, or to consistently put off decision making that previously there's been broad agreement with by councillors, because people are upset by the outcome. I completely agree it would be unfair for us to institute a charge on all allotment holders if we're going to exempt one allotment site for, again, the right reason. They did not receive the notice. So I would support Councillor Clifton in that. But my concern here is that we are kicking the can down the road, which in itself has a significant financial cost to this council. The amount of time and effort that's currently being spent by this council to get us into a position where we can provide the full range of services parish councils are meant to provide, when we have a sound financial reasoning for why this change was implemented as part of the wider town council budget. And I agree it would be useful to provide some more context to allotment holders of why in the whole asset management budget, why we arrived at the figure we did. And again, I believe the publication of the recordings would successfully accomplish that, because there was significant debate. A reasoning was provided and a broad agreement was reached to revisit it, and then at the full council meeting, which I admit I wasn't there for, but I would have voted in favour of this price change had I been there. I think that will provide the context. But what I'm really conscious that we do not do as a council is relitigate, reopen decisions which are based on really sound financial calculations as part of the wider budget and wider responsibilities that this council has. I would just also like to add that we put in place discussions about the broader concessions policy for this council. If in the future these price increases are causing significant financial hardship, I would really encourage members of the public to approach staff and inform them that is happening. We do have a concessions policy now that is more equal than the previous concessions policy and far more forgiving, so that we can provide what is fundamentally a great service to the people of Eastleigh. But not everyone in Eastleigh has an allotment, and we have a responsibility to provide services for everyone in Eastleigh. That is why that decision was reached. And I think, while I agree with the decision to not implement an increase from 1st of April for all sites, I think we should go ahead with implementing it from the October date mentioned in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Constable. Any other councillors want to add? Councillor Spencer?
So I fall down somewhere in the middle of what the other councillors have said this evening. As Councillor Constable said, we have approached this whole process with a goal to try and make allotments more cost neutral, because there is an issue fundamentally of fairness that everyone who's paying council tax in this area is currently subsidising a small group of allotment holders. That's not a bad thing. We're very happy to provide that kind of subsidy, because it's a great service. It's a good thing we have in our community, and so it should be encouraged. But there does have to be a balance there. So the approach has been that there is a need to close that gap, and that does require increases in charges. I think, as Councillor Clifton was saying, we haven't done a particularly good job of explaining that and bringing people along, and that's been an issue. And I hope, reading the news and seeing how local government functions in the minute, councils have less and less and less money to spend. We've got inflation for all the services that we have to try and provide, all the goods that we're having to deal with. It's a tough time, so sacrifices have to be made, and tough decisions have to be made, so we can provide services across the board for everything that councils do. So that's where I want to start. What I am concerned about, though, particularly on the issues of transparency, I think lots of good questions were raised in that sort of extent by allotment holders that we don't have full answers to, and I think that does naturally mean that we need to have another look at this in some way. That doesn't mean the outcome will be that charges will be considerably lower, but I think it's worth having a review. So I think there just needs to be a little bit of give and take, where there's going to have to be a level of acceptance that charges may rise. However, we as a council need to prove to you that we can provide better service to you, run these allotments better, and give you that in return. And up to this point, I can understand why that doubt of that happening is there, and why that trust hasn't been built. So I'm in agreement with Councillor Clifton and Councillor Bicknell that this needs to be looked at again. I also think the accounting problems that you mentioned as well with Councillor Clifton, there is a good argument to start this semi-fresh, look at using the October, September dates as well. But I'm also in the view we do need to have another look at this again, and to a certain extent, there has been a benefit of this administrative error, because it has made us look at how we've handled this process and how we've communicated with you when it comes to these decisions.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to make a comment or make any proposal of some description? Councillor Bicknell.
Not a proposal. I was just going to
just highlight the fact that taking into account everything that all the councils said, of which there's an agreement with bits of it to more or less a degree, the actual end result might not really different than actually what was proposed in the first place. However, I'd like to think that we have better detail and factual information to actually at least explain it. Whilst we've said what we've said, and Councillor Spencer sort of highlighted that as well, but actually the result could end up being the same, apart from one, it won't be a surprise, up to months away anyway, and two, then there'll be more transparency around it and better explanation. So it might not be, we can't sit here as councillors and guarantee, oh, it'll be different, because of the things that Councillor Spencer and Councillor but equally, we can't sit here tonight, I don't believe, as councillors, and make a new decision on applicable point number 2, or make it, or even point number 3, because it's going to take a little bit more to unpick this. So my proposal would be, and you can all councillors debate amongst yourselves how you want to word it, that actually that we would defer all increases across all sites, pending a review. Council Clifton, you can carry on. But that's the general gist.
Okay. Does the clerk want to say anything at this point around any of that? So if we were to... Sorry, Councillor Clifton.
I just wanted to clarify a few points, just because there have been some responses to the things that I said. So the key thing being, I said that I think that we actually need to consult with the block holders around this. We didn't consult with the block holders before we made the decision previously. And I think I did say that sharing the figures and our thinking hopefully help with a shared understanding, but I still think that we need to listen to what the response is from the block holders as well before we make the decision about what the rent should be. Now, that's not to say that we will just do whatever the holders want. We need to take everything into consideration, but I would like us to take the block holders' view into consideration. We haven't had that as yet. We now have an opportunity to make sure that we do that going forward by postponing this increase, reviewing the decisions we've already made, and doing so in light of the additional information that has been brought to light by the block holders. The other thing that I do want to clarify in terms of the figures that we considered as part of setting the rent was that the figures that were presented to full council when we decided what the rent should be were on the basis of the officer's time as it has been in this financial year. After that decision was made, and a key part of that decision was the level of subsidy that was presented as part of the papers, there was then a decision from the clerk that we need to try and reduce the amount of time which is allotted to the allotments from that officer, which we all agreed with. But then that has now changed the figures, that has changed the calculation around the level of subsidy that the council is making towards the running of the allotments. And so I think even on that basis, it would be fair to say that we need to review the decision, because the figures that were presented about the level of subsidy that the council was making from council tax have changed. So I think those, just wanted to make those two bits clear from my perspective before we then go into whatever the proposal is going to be in today going forward.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to any of that?
Just for clarity, it is exactly as Councillor Clifton says. There is timing. So these were set in September. The council started their budget setting process in October. In that process, it's natural that we review the cost of delivery, the administration, the office, the back office costs. And yes, it was then reviewed, benchmarked, looked at, brought to committee to reduce the time that was allocated for an allotment officer. So it wasn't something that was held back in the price setting. It was part of a review that started for another aspect of council in October.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Constable.
Yes, so in regards to the proposal from Councillor Bicknell, I think if we are going to resolve to, I completely agree we should resolve to not institute charges on the other sites, so freeze all charges. I would like us to agree tonight though that we move to the October schedule so that that decision can be made in year. I have significant concerns about kicking this down the road that we're doing tonight and the impact that that will have on the budget. We have that broad responsibility. The budget itself is set to provide resourcing for all of the running of the allotments that could, anything that could arise in this financial year. That's why we set our budget at that figure. We may at the end of the financial year be over or under slightly, but the reason that we do that is to ensure that we can have a safe and secure service delivery. By kicking the can as we are now doing tonight, we are undermining that principle. So I understand the feeling in the room from other councillors is that we should defer it, but I would really like to stress that we agree that the review will be implemented by October so that we can limit the financial impact that this decision will have.
I think that would take us to having to make a decision by April. 1st of April we'd have to have notified by.
Yes,
My
so
maths is correct.
it would have to come to the Asset Committee, Council Committee, on the Asset Committee on the 18th of March, which means that that consultation would have to be concluded by the 11th of March, which is only 7 weeks from this evening. So that is enough time to put in an element of consultation, not a very long one, but it will facilitate that gap.
Okay. Any other comments, or does someone want to make some separate proposals to tile that off? Councillor Clifford?
Can I make a proposal?
You go for it.
I'd like to make a proposal that we defer the decision to increase any rents. So defer the implementation of any rent increases until the 1st of October 2026 to allow sufficient time to consult and review further information in order to set what that increase should be by the 1st of April of this year, and consequently only bill for 6 months in April.
Does everybody understand that proposal?
Bill for 6 months?
Current rate.
From April, so the
Yes, from April,
the bill
we
issued in
have
April 2026 would run from April 26 to the end of September 26. Okay, yeah.
Is everybody?
Did you get all of that?
Are you clear on that proposal, Deputy Clerk?
We'll
Yeah.
watch it back.
Yeah. Is everybody here clear on that proposal?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Bicknell. Any more comment or debate before we vote on that proposal? Councillor Bicknell?
I think the proposal is fair, because it means now that there is consistency across the board. All allotment sites and allotment holders will be paying exactly the same from April the 1st right the way through until October the 1st, which will be the current levels that they're paying at the moment. So in effect, there's no rent increase from the 1st of April across the board, which I think is fair for everybody. I think the proposal gives sufficient time to be able to consult with allotment holders. Like I said before, it doesn't mean to say that it's an outcome, but at least allotment holders will have had information and fully understand our reasoning. And it enables us to be able to go through in a little bit more detail some of the points prior to the consultation that were picked up and mentioned in the letter that we received and some of the comments from tonight. Because some of those figures and that, there is a reason behind it that is difficult to sort of tease out and be able to explain at the moment, but as part of the consultation and if it's a public meeting consultation or something, then that's something that I'm sure we can actually do. So quite happy with the recommendation and obviously happy to have seconded.
Thank you. If I can just make one comment, I'm in favour of that proposal. However, I will stress that in terms of the consultation with allotment holders, councillors are going to have to do a lot of the legwork because our staff have got a lot on at the moment. So if that's what councillors would like to happen, councillors need to be involved in that process, and we can't just put all that on the officers. We've got the officers to look after who have an incredible amount of work on at the moment with asset transfers and local government reorganisation and the merger of the two councils. So if that's what councillors are asking for, councillors are going to have to do some of that work as well. I just wanted to stress that. Okay, so we've got a proposal that has been seconded. All those in favour? That carries, that's unanimous, thank you. Was that everything on allotments that we needed to discuss on the agenda?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Yes, okay. Sorry.
Just before we close that, can I request that the recordings of the September meeting of this committee, the subsequent full council meeting and this meeting are published as a matter of urgency?
Yeah, we will do that.
I would really encourage you to go away and watch those recordings because, like I said, when we were setting these charges, we were not just setting the allotment charges, we were looking at it as part of the wider budget, which will give you the context that is, I appreciate, entirely missing from the minutes. So hopefully with that, you'll have a clearer picture of what the decision-making process was.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, that's the item on allotments finished. You are all very welcome to stay or also leave. It's entirely up to you. We'll just pause the meeting whilst people leave.
Video.
Okay, the next item is events, to receive a verbal update on the Warm Hubs and the post-event evaluation meeting of the Christmas event. Is this the deputy clerk? Oh, it's the clerk.
Okay, well, the Warm Hubs, we had 4, 2 before Christmas, 2 after Christmas. They were attended very well by a small group who came to the first one and continued to come to the subsequent ones. By the end of it, we had swelled the numbers to a heady number of 9, I believe. I think the lessons learned from it is we need to think of different ways of communicating it. The main communication that went out there was via social media and the council website. That really wasn't quite enough. We did do a leaflet drop as well, but we needed to do more direct communication. We also needed to move the location. So here is a good location for people who live locally. It's not necessarily the location that would be everybody's ideal. And as a result of it, we have instigated a certificate of recognition on behalf of the council, as the hubs were fully supported by the Good Companions. They provided all the food for the 4 weeks.
And the soup was great, by the way. I came to 3 of the 4 and it was really good soup. And homemade bread. So
this will be delivered to Dan and his wife at the Good Companions, just as a record and a recognition from the council, and your thanks as a council for their support for it. And also shows that we are working out there with our community on community events.
Yeah, if I can just say, the officer did a great job on putting the warm hubs together. Our greening officer was very enthusiastic at the warm hubs, so was our community officer. They both did great things. I came along, as I said, to 3 of them. There were really nice little sessions in here, actually. The members of the public that came along really appreciated them. I was loving doing a bit of crafting and scratching, and they scratch things that I'm now addicted to. They were brilliant. Councillor Thicklin?
Just first of all, I love the idea of the certificate, and I think it's great that we can recognise the contribution that companions made, because that's wonderful. And I'm also really pleased that they happened, and they were attended. I appreciate we definitely wanted bigger numbers. But with that in mind, one of the things that I did notice when I was trying to find the details to share with somebody else is that EBC's website has a warm places, and it wasn't listed on there. So I think just a note for the future is that's one of probably several other places that we could list, that was one in particular, I thought. And the other thing that occurred to me was I think they were all on a Monday. Actually, no, tell me I was wrong. And I just wonder if actually rotating the days might be helpful as well, because sometimes people have other commitments already, and being able to come. I wasn't able to come as it was because of other commitments, but I would have liked to have done to see how it was going. So just a couple of considerations for the future, but I hope that we will repeat it.
Thank you. And I think that is the plan, to repeat these, isn't it? But just potentially in a different venue.
All the points that you've made, to take them into consideration, the timeline between the approval of council to give the budget and the actual going out the door was short. Sometimes you just have to try things and learn your lessons in the reality of trying it. But they've been learnt, and we'll see what we can do next time.
Thank you. And the Christmas event?
The Christmas event, the date for the event for this year has been put in the calendar at the 21st of November 2026. There will be an invitation sent out to all councillors. Once council sits on the 7th of May, we will reissue it after the 7th of May. There is a wash-up meeting taking place in 2 weeks' time with all the participants of the day, and as a result of that we will provide an after-event report into council with the highlights, any lowlights, any proposed amendments that we make, any implications that has on budget. However, just as an overarching view, because it's this committee that is in charge of events, the figure that we're being quoted is 29,000 people turned up for the event. It's the largest they've ever recorded, but I emphasise recorded. Doesn't mean to say it's the most that ever came. The feedback from the business district was that all of their businesses enjoyed a very profitable day. The market had a very profitable day. The food vendors cleared out, had nothing left to sell past 6 o'clock. And in the evening in the town centre, all of the eateries were full with people staying in the town afterwards. So it's been
Let's do one every day.
No, it's not. It's been viewed as a successful event by not only the people who came to Eastleigh to see it. There was actually a comment on Eastleigh neighbours that it's better than Southampton. We'll take that. But yes, we can't guarantee that everybody's feet that walk through the town were actually Eastleigh residents, but we can guarantee that the residents that enjoyed, the businesses that enjoyed a good start to the Christmas period were Eastleigh businesses.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions, comments? No? Excellent. We'll move on to the next item. Eastleigh Town Council Office to receive and approve the request for the transfer from the reserve account for the office remodelling. Who's presenting this one? Is it the clerk again?
Well, it would be the assets officer, but he gave his apologies for tonight's meeting, so it'd be me again, yes. I think the paper is self-explanatory. Our issue simply is that we have a problem of our own making, which is that we've agreed to take assets on, therefore we need the individuals to manage those assets and make sure that they serve our residents well. To do that we need more space. We've had a variety of conversations, one of which was to see whether or not we remodel the area downstairs here so that we actually had a ground floor access for town residents. Councillor Bicknell's frowning at me by actually putting a partition out in the middle of the building, but we have subsequently had an inquiry that we're waiting to just finish and complete with from a preschool who will be coming in here 5 days a week from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon and providing real service to the local residents. So hence the reason why we've looked to go upstairs. We were given a budget of £40,000 from EBC for mitigations to the building. In there it listed new floors, it listed redecoration. A lot of that we've managed to actually fulfil in different ways. So we have put out there a quotation template, which you've seen, the pro forma for quotations, so that all the quotes that we get in are the same. Currently we've had 2 quotes in. They're both in the region of £17,000 to £18,000. I'm asking for a budget provision, should you agree to the remodelling work, of £20,000 just to cover for any contingencies like plug sockets or projectors in the ceiling that hadn't been planned or maybe more difficult. There is a diagram. I apologise that we've picked up a very old floor plan of upstairs. I've had to draw walls in and draw light switches in and create toilets and kitchens and offices, etc. And I've put the new walls in there as well. any questions.
Can I ask one? What have any of these people who have given you quotes given time frames on how long it will take to do the work?
So that's another aspect that we're looking at, which is realistically we would like it all done and dusted before our new team lands. We have a very efficient process laid down by our assets officer of how we could put a wall up to divide the conference room, then we all move out of the office and move into there, continue working. Their wall is then put up in the main office and then we all move back.
That was going to be my question. Will we be able to stay or go?
We can retain the service, we can retain the internet, we have enough network points around the office to continue the phones, and we also have all of the landline phones are actually configured to our mobiles as well through an app. So there will be no interruption of service at all. The office will still operate on exactly the same terms that we currently do, just in a different location. We are looking to commence work on this should the committee agree, the last week in February, the first 2 weeks in March. And both of the current companies that are quoted are both local and can both fulfil that timeline. The third one, we are waiting for their quotation back, but they verbally said they can fulfil the timeline.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. Any other questions? Councillor Constable?
Not a question, just a comment. Just thank you for the way that the information in this report was laid out. It's really easy to engage with, very informative on reading it, and I just like to commend this council, really, everyone involved around the local first principle for when we're commissioning services.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's really important and something that will help the town in the long term, and see that we've already had quotes from 3 local businesses for this is really, really encouraging for that policy moving forward.
Absolutely.
So thank you for the work in getting it together and then also putting it together in such an easily consumable format.
Any other comments? Councillor Griffin?
Thanks and praise for everything that's been done here. I've just got a couple of questions. Maybe I just missed it in the report, I don't know. I'm just trying to understand, so obviously enlarging the office into the space that's currently the conference room, is the idea that would then be a smaller meeting room?
Yes, I can only give you guidance, but point 2, we measured the existing space and we then measured the space that would be remaining, and indications for conference spaces are that the existing space would be 28, the resulting space, sorry, would be 28.5 square metres. That covers anything between 10 and 16 people. I think 16 might be a little bit compact and bijou, but 10 would be sufficient for most of the meetings that take place in there, 10, 12. Obviously we would then utilise this downstairs space for the committee meetings again, because it facilitates an easier meeting and also better access for members of the public when they want to attend the meetings.
Or in any other buildings we might go at that point.
Or in other buildings.
I suppose my follow-on then is it, and maybe we can make a decision tonight, but is it worth considering if there's any further work we want to do down here to make it a bit easier and suitable for, I think, meetings? I mean, really basic things like putting a projector on the ceiling instead of having to stick it up every time. Whether the tables and chairs are actually suitable for what we want to do, or just to make this room a bit, because I think we've always felt like this is going to be a stopgap, and that conference felt like it was going to be a progress of that. It's only really worked for committees, but I'm just wondering if that's now really not going to be an option, and do we need to explore any further amendments to this room?
We do have a programme that we are delaying past the 1st of April just for sheer capacity issues of going through and replacing all of the lighting that's in here. This lighting is not LED, therefore it's more costly to the council, and also it's not the greatest lighting if you're in here as a consistency. As to actually the structure of the room, we would struggle on the basis that the preschool actually have got the Ofsted of approval for this area because of the holding zone at the front, so that if parents drop off, they come in, they're off the street, they can then wait to be let back into the main room. it's why the room was built that way, because it was set up originally, I believe, as a preschool. So there is a programme of works. We also, at the moment, you may have noticed, are in the market for a facilities officer, which was signed off. We're waiting for budget to be signed so we can actually make an offer on that. And a lot of that work would be able to be done within their role. Yes, we will be coming back to you after the 1st of April to spend some more money.
Thank you. Councillor Bingham?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think that it's the right decision to be looking at reaching the first floor and not looking at down here just yet. This room hasn't been used for community purpose for some years, and until it is in use, then we're not really going to find out and know what the best layout would be. So I would be concerned if we were going to start taking space away from down here for offices and what have you, because actually we might decide that we want more of this space. There's obviously common sense says the petitions and splittings do in time, but I think it's definitely the right decision to look at the first floor, and then we can then see how this develops for usage and need. And then, like I said, look at it at a later date when we have a little bit more feedback from users as to what's good and what's bad and what could, and what could be done in the future. Yes, quite happy with this.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Spencer?
I agree with everything that's been said so far. We're thinking kind of about future-proofing and increased staff sizes in the future, and whether we'll be basic staff up there in the next 5 years, 10 years, assuming that we keep growing and we've got more assets to manage and whatever else. What's the thinking there?
It's a difficult question because we already have sight of other assets that would provide space for meetings that are probably a lot more central for the residents, but they come with the downside, which is car parking then is not quite as accessible as it is here. And without looking necessarily at fragmentation of services, we also do have other office space that will be part of the assets that are coming across. So there is no reason why at some point in the future the conference room, so to speak, cannot be used up as office space, so to speak. It feels like a long way to look ahead for 5 years for a council that's done so much in 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a useful office space for someone for a while, so
yeah.
It's a good idea.
Thank you. Anyone like to make a proposal? Councillor Clifton?
I propose that we proceed with the recommendation of the £20,000 budget facility to support the reconfiguration of the basement.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Bicknell, any other comment before we vote? Okay, all those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Now the next item, I'm afraid, is the confidential section.
I'm sorry. I wish you well with your move. And the work's done in time.
Well, come and use the sheds at Chestnut now they don't leak.
Stop the recording. To resolve to exclude members of the public and press in accordance with the Public Bodies Act 1960 prior to consideration of the following item by reason of the confidential nature, transfer of assets and employment information of the business to be transacted. Thank you. We'll resolve to go into that then. Thank you. Essentially to adopt, and it's just the verges because we haven't got Grantham Green, isn't it? And this is subject to those red line drawing clarification bits. Okay, we'll reopen the meeting then.
I just did, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. So the confidential session to end, to invite the press and public back into the meeting. In there come in their droves. Community asset programme to receive and approve the proposed transfer of the following assets. So it's HP 643856, the verges of Abbots Road, HP 673737, the verges of Owen Road, Chadwick Road, HP 673746, the verges of Elm Road and Spencer Road. Is that type? Or is that what's called? I thought it was Elm Road and Spencer Road. We're not discussing Grantham Green, but we are discussing HP 669050, the verges of Maple Square. Any comments? Councillor Clifton.
Elm Grove.
It's not.
Oh,
It
Elm
should
Grove.
be Elm Grove.
Understood.
That's the one.
I think I like Road better.
We'll have that.
And I make a proposal.
Yes.
I propose that we continue with those transfers.
Do we need to add the caveat of the...
With the
Subject
exception
to.
of grant and green.
Quite happy to second that.
Thank you. Any debate, comments, question? Councillor Hunter.
Yeah, just that materially, it's not changed from when we adopted it in principle. It remains a service that we can provide potentially to a better standard than the future unitary authority and the existing borough council. Therefore, the reasoning that we entered into this in principle hasn't changed. We haven't found any, bunkers in any of these verges. So yeah, I think it's good to go.
Thank you. So there's a proposal that was seconded, I think? Yes. Any other comments? All those in favour? That's everybody. Thank you. Date of the next meeting. To agree, the date of the next meeting is scheduled for the 18th of March 2026. Due to asset transfer, meeting may be required for the 18th of February 2026. So we'll get notice of that should that be required. That's the meeting closed then at 8:35. Thank you.